Oh boy, there's lots to talk about this time, and none of it's good. Let's start with Norm Macdonald. So Norm Macdonald has a new talk show coming out on Netflix. So he was interviewed by The Hollywood Reporter, and some stuff came up about Trump, Me Too, Roseanne, and Louis C.K., and I agree with one of the response takes that said he basically stepped on every conversational landmine he possibly could, completely irreverently. It was like someone said, hey, don't walk through there, it's a minefield, and he just sauntered on through there, doing zigzags, walking in circles till every device was shrapnel under his somehow unscathed feet. And I mean unscathed. Norm is one of those people you can't level much criticism at that won't just bounce off his near impenetrable shield of who gives a shit. If he was sentenced to execution by firing squad, he would inexplicably dodge all the bullets. His stand-up has never been my type, but I remember him being a guest commentator on the World Series of Poker one year, and he was really funny there. But so let's get to what he actually said that caused all this meaningless controversy that will have no lasting impact on anything ever. When asked about Me Too, Norm said that he's glad it's slowing down, saying it started with 100 women can't be lying, then it became one woman can't lie, and then it became I believe all women, and he said he thought Chris Hardwick got the blunt end of the stick there. Honestly, nobody who respects the law at all should be sad that we're finally starting to get some due process in there. I don't care what the ends are. The means should never be, hey, I wrote an article about my experience, now please immediately fire this person I say harmed me. That's how order dissipates. As for Chris Hardwick, I personally straight up 100% believe most, if not all, the things Chloe Dykstra accused him of, even though she claimed to have concrete evidence but then refused to participate in the investigation, saying she just wanted it to go away, so she shot herself in the foot in that regard. But regardless, to me, he just easily seems like that kind of happy, fun nerd guy on the outside, but domineering relationship tyrant in his private life. Like cutting her off from friends and family and always expecting her to be sexually ready when he got home from work. None of that is unbelievable to me. But I shouldn't be in a position to have the opportunity to even have that opinion, because we shouldn't fucking know about any of it until charges have been filed. Norm Macdonald goes on to talk about his two friends who have been through the ringer of the court of public opinion recently, Roseanne and Louis C.K. And this is the part that most people are pissed about, where he says, quote, there are very few people that have gone through what they have, losing everything in a day. Of course, people will go, what about the victims? But you know what? The victims didn't have to go through that. At that point, I'm sure the interviewer's eyes lit up knowing what a viral story this was about to be. Then a couple days later, in response to the backlash, he created even more backlash by clarifying his earlier backlash, saying, you'd have to have Down syndrome not to feel sorry for the victims of Me Too. Now that warms my heart. It really does. It evokes nostalgic feelings, because I used to say shit like that all the time when I was a sophomore in high school. The only problem in this case is that it's a misuse, because Down syndrome people still feel empathy, and the topic is about feeling sorry for people rather than a question of intelligence. I still enjoy the response, though, because it's like willfully cleaning a mustard stain with ketchup. You just made a different colored mess, but it begs the question of why it's a mess in the first place. Why is it always a mess when people voice harmless opinions? They're not harmless. Yes, they are. Innately, they are. You add the harm to them by reacting the way you do. Like, my dog is harmless, but if you're allergic to dogs and you decide to roll around with her anyway, what happens next is on you. Only in this case, it's more like if you could press a button to trigger your own allergic reaction, and every time you heard an opinion you disagreed with, you just started mashing that button until you bloated all to hell and closed your fucking airways. I want to know why you're only allowed to stick up for whoever has it the worst in a given situation. Why is victimhood a competition? In Roseanne's case, I'd say she wins, because Valerie Jarrett was made fun of in a tweet, but Roseanne lost an entire TV show. I'd rather take the arguably racist comment. 10 out of 10 times that would be my choice. But so of the women who watched Louis C.K. masturbate, some of them decided to quit show business altogether and lost out on whatever success they might have otherwise had. That's a loss. Louis C.K. having to go on hiatus for 11 months, becoming a part-time pariah, and getting his movie shelved is also a loss. You can compare and contrast them all you like, but they're both losses, and whatever the bigger loss in your mind is, doesn't mean the other one ceases to exist. So when someone does an interview and sticks up for the other side, it really shouldn't trigger a meltdown, or even make you roll your eyes, because it's a necessary counter, and nothing you think ever runs unopposed. Norm Macdonald was scheduled to appear on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, but apparently senior producers on the show cried so much after reading his thoughts they decided to urge him to walk away. I'm talking literal tears. And I mean, Jimmy Fallon wouldn't know a nuanced opinion if it hit him in the face while he was breaking character. His core audience is the child part of people's brains, and he won't even tell a fat joke on the air because of the feelings he might hurt. So him interviewing Norm after this would not have gone well anyway, assuredly. Him interviewing most adults doesn't go well. Anytime anyone says something even remotely edgy, he goes, "Oh, no, that's terrible. Oh, you don't mean that." He did that to fucking Jim Gaffigan. Dude, if Jim Gaffigan is saying things you think you need to lightheartedly denounce in his face so the audience stays on your side, you have the sensibilities of a radical toddler. Norm Macdonald's show hasn't been canceled yet, and he's since issued a full apology with nothing else to get mad at because that's what you have to do to keep your show. Moving on. Olivia Munn recently exercised her outrage muscles by getting an actor with a bit part in her upcoming movie fired for being an ex-con who had already served his time long ago. A sex offender, no bones about it. Someone who had physical contact with a 14-year-old girl on several occasions, though it never went past kissing and feeling her up, which some people would argue that the semantics aren't important, but I'd say the difference between rape and fondle is pretty severe. For example, one of them is rape, and the other is not rape. If you had to pick, would you rather be raped or not quite raped? Simple answer. The point is the encounters occurred 10 years ago. He went to prison for 6 months and served his time. Therefore, in the eyes of the law, he is back to being a legal person who can have jobs and not be in jail. Acting is a job, like any other. And before you say something about it being a glorification of sex offenders to have him on the big screen, remember that he was in one scene as an inconsequential character. I'd be more glorified as a dishwasher in a restaurant. This guy was a friend of the director and has been in a few movies since his release, such as Iron Man 3. The director has since obviously been forced to produce a bullshit statement saying he was wrong about his friend who misled him into thinking he'd be able to get away with trying to resume his normal life. After the news broke, Olivia Munn reportedly felt shunned by some of her male co-stars, saying, "I do feel like I've been treated by some people as if I'm the one who put this guy on set." No, bitch, you're being treated like the chick who got somebody fired for their distant past. Where does the redemption arc get to take place? He's gone straight ever since, never caused any other recent problems. If someone made a stink and got me fired for something I did 10 years ago, I'd be like, what do you think I haven't learned since then? When does the statute of limitations expire on your fucking attitude, bro? Me from 2007 and me from 2018 are two different people, and 2007 ain't acting in your movie. She thinks she's a hero. She really does. Going on Ellen and saying shit like, "I don't want to stay in the business if it means staying quiet," like is ex-con marginalization your new platform? I refuse to work with reformed people. So the execs deleted the one scene the dude was in. He's out of the movie entirely. God forbid a previous sex offender plays a guy in a Predator reboot who probably gets his throat ripped out. Next topic, police. If you think police are entirely, mostly, or even half corrupt and racist, it is my firm belief that you do not deserve to be served or protected. So far in 2018, there have been 13 police shootings of unarmed black people, though the news would have you believe it's like 3 a day. Colin Kaepernick is kneeling for 13 people in the last 9 months, or what he calls a systemic problem that has ruined America. You can go to the Washington Post Fatal Force Police database if you want to see actual statistics. For example, twice as many white people have been killed by police than blacks this year. Those sure don't seem like racist numbers unless cops secretly hate white people now. However, if you're looking for a concession, I'm about to give you one. Because only 17 white people have been shot while unarmed, just 4 more than black unarmed, even though whites double the numbers otherwise, so it is mildly disproportionate. Based on that, it seems clear that unarmed black people are seen as a bigger threat to cops than unarmed white people are, and maybe that's not fair, or maybe it's a fucking coincidence, who knows. However, did you know that black cops are also more likely to shoot black people than white people? Ain't that something? Would that be self-racism, or... It's important to note that whenever a police shooting is obviously unjust, like the most recent one with the lady who barged into the wrong apartment and shot the black occupant dead, people on both sides of the political aisle are like, yeah, that's not good. Fox News will run a story about how a search turned up marijuana afterwards because Fox News is Fox News, but rational conservatives aren't that utterly incorrigible. It wasn't even a police shooting. She just happened to be an officer with a story full of more holes than her victim, and she's been rightfully arrested. Most cops are good. They want to uphold the law and make their community a safer place. I am behind Chris Rock, though, when he says that they all have to be good, and then equates it to being a pilot. There are no bad apples among pilots. They all land the plane safely. But I then also have to concede that being a police officer is 100 times harder and more nuanced and situational than being a pilot. Mistakes are much more likely. Oversights, bad calls, nerves, emotions, fear. When you're a cop, every confrontation could turn into a life or death situation. A traffic stop can turn into a chase. A domestic disturbance can turn into a hostage situation. Hell, a parking ticket can turn into a shootout if the stars align just right. Nothing is certain. Everything can be dangerous. And you're a human being with a gun, with a community to serve and protect, and a family to come home to. The stakes are high. And black people are scary. I'm just kidding. Everyone is scary. That's why they shoot twice as many white people, because twice as many of us are out there committing shootable crimes, and we're scary. Unarmed shootings are way down across the board now over last year, so I think Kaepernick can get off his knee and back onto the bench. I recommend Ben Shapiro's Sunday Special podcast episode with sports journalist Clay Travis. They talk about how politics are ruining sports, and the NFL in particular, though this is before Nike announced their salacious campaign. I don't even watch sports, and I found it very interesting. Quick thing about the Nike and Kaepernick campaign. When a company rallies behind social justice, it is to make money and generate good favor with the political ideology that has cultural and social power. Republicans have government power, but the left largely controls the media and definitely wins the Influence Award. Young demographics are the most passionate and reliable, and most importantly, incitable consumer group. And young demographics lean more left politically because they're more emotional beings. That's why even if Nike loses sales from more conservative buyers, it more than makes up for it with these inflamed social justice warriors who go buy 8 pairs of sneakers that still probably came from child sweatshops so they can do their part to help Nike end racism forever. If any company can do it, it's the company who says just do it. Not to mention the sales Nike gained from right-wing idiots who bought Nike apparel just to burn it when having bought it is the only part that makes a difference to Nike. It's not like they personally knitted you a sweater with tender love and care with your name monogrammed on it. You're holding up a middle finger to the backs of their heads as they turn to make their next sale. It's quite silly, and everyone knows it. As for burning stuff you already previously bought before the campaign, I mean, it's your choice, but it's not like they incur the cost of your property damage. My only good pair of shoes is Nike. I've always been an Adidas guy in the socks and pants department, but I like these shoes, and they aren't going anywhere even if I don't support this obvious but effective PR stunt. Should Thomas the Tank Engine be rebooted with diversity in mind to reflect a multicultural society? No. Make a new cartoon and put all the colors in there. Otherwise, it's revisionist history. Also, don't reboot it at all. I never watched that show as a kid because of how fucking creepy it looks. Look, if you want to curate television to cater to this modern diversity-focused boom we seem to be going through, do it by making original new programming, not by redoing old stuff in the hopes of wiping its white source material from memory so we can pretend we always gave a shit about representation. I watched Crazy Rich Asians a few weeks ago, and it's a pretty good movie, in my estimation. And you saw a lot of Asian Americans, I specify Americans because the movie might not even get greenlit in China or places like it because of their view of Americanized Asians as less honorable or respectable or whatever, which is even part of the theme of the movie itself. But so you see Asian Americans on Twitter rallying on and on about how important it is and what it would have meant to them as kids to have a movie like this as representation. Because a lot of minorities apparently view TV movie representation as a legitimization of their cultural existence. I saw a bunch of people tweet about how they had no good entertainment role models, so they grew up hating their own culture, and it's like, whoa, really? You need to see Asians on TV as a kid so you can feel good about being Asian? What kind of conditional pride is that shit? That is alarming for the wrong reasons, because I know for a goddamn fact your parents make a point to instill cultural pride in you as kids on their own, but you'd ignore them in favor of a cartoon character? Are you some kind of fucked up? That is ridiculously insulting, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Imagine being in middle school and you come home crying like, some kids made fun of me for being Chinese. I hate being Chinese. But then you watch an episode of Shaolin Showdown and you're like, oh, never mind, I'm fine. So if cartoon representation is the crutch you need to tolerate your own ethnicity, I think you're betraying yourself in the most disgusting way possible, which seems like a you problem, and not something to put on the television industry. This is neither here nor there, but I've never in my life seen a group of friends hang out together who were all different ethnicities. That shit doesn't happen. You don't have like one Mexican, one Asian, one black guy, and a penguin from Antarctica all sitting at the same table just coexisting in harmony. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but they don't. So any TV show that aims to achieve that is being dishonest. College brochures aren't real. Here's another thing about diversity people don't seem to realize. A movie like Crazy Rich Asians isn't diverse. It's all fucking Asians. And guess what? It's strong that way. You can focus on a particular group of people and come away with strong stories, with Asians, with predominantly black casts like the show Atlanta, and also still, yes, that's right, with white people. Watch The Ozark on Netflix. There hasn't been a whiter show since Friends, and it's very engaging. The only Mexican is a cartel lieutenant, and the only black guy is a secondary FBI guy, like not even the main FBI guy. Diversity is not a requirement for good storytelling, and a lack of it isn't a problem that needs to be fixed. You want to make your own diversified stories with rainbow casts? Be my guest, but your screenplay better be up to snuff and able to stand on its own merits without its scoreboard needing to be propped up by brownie points. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino. I tweet great shit sometimes. And you can help support the channel financially on a month-by-month basis over at my Patreon at patreon.com/sunburnedalbino. Every little bit helps. Even $1 pledge from half of you would make me very comfortable. I'll see you guys next time.